Yeah, hi, Mike Coplitz here with the Royal Rooks. Make a couple minor adjustments as we get started here. And it's great to be back and doing videos and video lessons with you. This is a continuation of a really good book that I really do like called Lessons from a Chess Coach, Critical Play. If you happen to have the book, please pull it out. We're in chapter 8, and we have a very interesting set of topics, and this lesson will be broken down into several different topics. And we're going to be looking at weak squares and good pieces. We have to remember that as pawns move forward, they cannot move backward. And every time you move a pawn forward, you have the potential of creating weak squares. And that's because once pawns move forward, they can't move backward, and you end up with squares that cannot be protected by pawns. So let's take a look at some of these formations and how they start to come together. And actually in the book, from that intro, the first game is actually talking about a good knight versus a bad bishop. So let me get some of the moves on the board so you can see what's going on here. Very quickly, as fast as I can move here. And I'm running Aquarium now, 2020. I did an upgrade here since the last time we were together. It's very nice and responsive. I'm using the Komodo, which is an excellent, very excellent engine. So we're going to get some more moves up on the board. These are all pretty much book moves. There's nothing tremendous or exciting here at this point. And let's keep going. There we go. Queen C7, Queen E1, Knight takes D4, Bishop takes D4, E5, Bishop back to E3. Okay, Black moved. He moved his bishop to E6. And it's interesting to see why he would do that. I'm looking at F5 immediately as a move because it allows you to force that bishop to move and gets that kingside attack up and running. Bishop comes to C4. And in the game, bishop takes bishop. Queen takes bishop. So now the queen is actually on the queen side away from the king. So you have some potential here to start mounting an attack. Bishop G5, and you may take note here, I'll bring the cursor over, that the bishop sitting here on E7, whoops, didn't want to do that. Bishop on E7 is unprotected, therefore the knight is, technically it's pinned. So Black's going to make that particular move. F2, E8, get that protection going. And we have a trade. And then the knight comes to D5. We now have the good knight versus the bad bishop, because notice that E5 and D6 block the bishop from doing a whole lot in the center, where this knight has a beautiful, beautiful outpost here on D5. It cannot be kicked out. not by a pawn, and not even by the bishop, wrong color. And you see that pocket or that outpost was created because c5, that's the first move to Sicilian, but then by moving e5, black allowed this opening of the d5 as an outpost to occur. Very simply put. Make our board a little bigger. You can see all the different moves being calculated by the computer. Bishop to d8. You got to do something with the bishop. You're going to deploy it somewhere. c3. Now you can see even more of the black squares are being cut off from the bishop. Bishop's not going to have a whole lot of places to go here soon or be effective. Simple check, get the king out of the way. Rook to c8, very normal in a Sicilian, except that, of course, the pawn at c3 is blocking the effectivity of the queen and the rook. And now we're going to start to see white hook his rook, get it into position against the king. King's going to move to h8. Now, if you take notice of the scoring off to the right here, you can see that positionally white is ahead. And that f6 square is going to be a key right there to the whole victory, which he's going to push now. So what do? Well, in the game it was take. I don't think there's a whole lot of good moves here at this point, because now the queen's going to come over. Rook comes back to g8. Notice that the bishop, and I didn't note this earlier, but it's important to see now, the bishop, or I'm pointing to on d8, cuts off the communication between the rooks. And it's going to take an extra move to get that rook on c8 over. And remember I mentioned the queen is on the wrong side of the board where the attack is going to occur. So knight takes f6. Rook has to come up. Either you got to protect h7 from the checkmate. You should see that pretty clearly. Or you have to take one of the two. Jimmy, notice now the engine has a +10 for white. White's definitely has the game, and it's pretty well over. Rook g3. If you could get rid of the rook on g7, of course, it's a checkmate. Oh, excuse me. So bishop takes knight. Queen takes bishop, again threatening checkmate on g7. Rook comes over. And it looks like, it looks like black is in not a bad shape here. But again, white continues on. Attacks d1. If this rook on d1 can get into the game, black's definitely got a problem here. And now we have rook takes rook. And you can see what's going to happen here. He has to take back. And then this rook comes, the white rook comes to d5. Notice that the d8 square, that's the key to the puzzle right now, because white has control of that square. So now the queen has to move somewhere. And the question is, so where is the lowly queen going to move? Well, that's the best move the computer says. And again, you may not get a checkmate immediately from this attack, but it's pretty clear that black has to now give up his queen for this rook. And this is not going to be that difficult now for white to win. So we get to see how, when we go all the way back here, where the winning move ended up being the fact that the knight on e5 was able to jump to f6. Well, I hope this game has taught you something worthwhile, and we'll continue to look at the different maneuvers and the different tactics that come into the rest of Chapter 8. So I hope to see you next time. Again, Mike Coplitz here with the Royal Rooks. You can find us at royalrooks.club on the internet. You can also find us at chess.com. We're looking to fill our club so we can start some internal tournaments. Take care, and I'll see you next time.